All right, I think we're set. Yeah, okay, cool. There we go. Yeah, it's already down there. Perfect. Okay, good. We're all set. The man just can't stop placing these bullet points. I cannot, apparently. Let's... How am I gonna do this? You see this, chat? See this right here on my screen? This is the face. This is the face of someone who's slowly going insane. There we go. Now let's see. Okay, so I put this into its own separate thing for anything left over from DS1 or 2, so we can have that be like the list there, being like, okay, gotta put that stuff there to move into other stuff. I already moved the Dark Souls 1 bullet points back there, including some of the Archdragon Peak stuff. So the wyverns and stuff, like all that obviously has to happen before Hellkite gets sent over. Our sword dies, comes reviled as the impaler. Joshua! Hey, I am. You recognize those cold amber eyes anywhere. Once you see him, you never forget him. Anyway, let's see. This we have there. Yeah, this will be for generic Fire Link Cycle 3. So basically, this will be the lead up for any of this other stuff, I suppose. For now, we'll keep Archdragon Peak as its own section. Stagnation, of course, its own thing. I put some of the dragon stuff under there, so that way we could split it up and have a clear distinction made between, you know, everything that isn't necessarily tied to when the world really begins to accelerate in terms of stagnation and afterward. So, the convergence of the first flame drifts to Lothric with Dragon Lakes of Slordran, the wyverns and stuff. Yeah, there's some of this stuff we could probably... Yeah, some of this stuff we could probably split up or organize or whatever, but for now I think it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, okay, added that. Black Candor established. Church of Yoshka's constructed and Priscilla is buried. Yeah, that's becomes the Boreal Valley. I think that's it in terms of notable stuff with Irithel at this juncture. Is there anything else we should mention in terms of the culture at Ariandel? Let's actually look at that real quick. There we go. Okay. No, that's not it. Prophecy. I think we need to point out. The shrine and stuff that was made here or constructed. The prophecy itself is announced. Obviously, we've had both Millwood and Baron Boys showing up here eventually. We should mention the idea of Corvians going out, right? the Corvian storytellers and stuff. And dragon's clothing. Yeah, Frida obviously has to come in post, so really the question is just... I can't remember exactly... What was the stuff on... Yeah, of course. Da-da. It's a little vague from what I can tell. There's nothing I see where it's like, oh yeah, we can say that the storytellers started clearly here. This is when the fortress basically becomes abandoned by the painting guardians. We should say we'll say about after. We'll say though after the stuff with Yorshka. So people still coming in. They're trying to join. They're not being filtered by the guardians anymore. Okay, let's do that then. You want to talk about the Sable Church's influence or Wilhelm? Yeah, that stuff will have to come post Londor though. I don't want to start on that now. I'm trying to keep this stuff at least close to chronological order in terms of how we approach this, because otherwise, you know, we're going to be jumping across the timeline so much with stuff. Which is why I want to add that Dark Wraith thing before stream started. I was like, oh yeah, I should mention the whole Dark Wraith getting captured and things. So Irithyll area becomes the Boreal Valley. Corvian. Let's see. New immigrants become Corvian. Let's just say Corvian storytellers emerge for now. I think that's gets it across. All right, Profane Capital now. Yeah. New world, location, close to the east. You're at home, of course. This is just on Yorm's identity. Shield and blade. I think we need to dive too deep into the specifics of Yorm becoming king with like his marriage and stuff. Oh. Yeah. Really, that's basically it. It's just basically that's it for in terms of like pre-Yorm events, though. Leonard is born to Yorm. To Yorm and his queen. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I thought there might be one or two things we could... Because no, Profane Flame isn't a thing quite yet. Oh, that's awkward. I'm gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with the point up here then, if this is gonna be the only thing we have. Logan Scrolls. There we go. They become sorcerers as big hat successors. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Acquires 2 storm rulers from the Far East. There's and befriends Siegward. Norm's queen dies. I'll just say it as the queen dies and Norm discards shield. Yeah, that's about it. Kind of said they dropped the Ent vibe for Sully's design would have added to his lack of empathy and jailed to. Well, the thing was is that he's never had an Ent design. Nick, the idea, the original concept for Sully when he was just going to be a the Lord of Cinder final boss, was just that he was going to be an old king, probably of Lothric, who would be consumed by the stagnation, and so would have a lot of the tree stuff going for him, right? And then they just repurposed that and said, okay, we'll just make that about Sullivan instead, because, you know, Pontiff as like the king of the doctrines and stuff, it can still work. So it was just them repurposing that idea, and with obviously his big robes and the ceremonial stuff attached to him and everything. So let's see, Yorm encounters and befriends Siegward. Yeah. Yorm travels to Lothric and links the fire. Links the fire and acquires a throne. There we go. Yorm gifts Siegward 1 storm ruler. The other storm ruler was for the people, right? Uh-huh. Yes, this is all for. Oh, I should also point out, noble priest fall into degeneracy. Something like that. There we go. Storm ruler. Oh no, it's still the same thing we were seeing earlier. Is there really friend? Oh yeah, we have to go through the. All right, discard shield. Eamon and noble priests. I forgot how his name is spelled. Yeah, Eamon. Okay. Eamon / priest. Spark. The profaned flame. Yeah. Not you. Too late for that. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Actually, let's do it like this. Noble priests, spark the profane flame. Eamon. Also, this should be numbers. There we go. Eamon become. Eamon becomes guardian of the monsters of sin, or monstrosities of sin, as they're called, right? The grotesques. Profaned flame. The profaned flame. Now, how would it be? Noble priests. Research. No, not research would be the word. Study the profaned flame. Study / proliferate the yeah, we'll include the gargoyles and stuff under that. Noble priest. Conduct for the profaned flame and burn palace. Eamon rescues Leonhard. No wait, Leonhard is burned and rescued by Eamon. All right. Leonhard. There we go. There we are. Leonhard learns sorcery from Eamon. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and we'll have to consider the drift part too, right? So not entirely sure when exactly it drifts to Lothric, right? Charlie. So it at latest has to be around the time Celadon shows up, so there we go. There we go. This is better to put here because we obviously Leonhard is not the relatively young guy, you know. Leonhard, not to be confused with the cooler Leonhard. Yep. For sure. Katerina. Katerina invades the profaned capital. There we go. We'll put that just to have that noted. First Flame, Leonhard, Sully, Handmaidens. Yeah, I don't think we need to mention the Handmaidens specifically. Is anything with the mask lump? There we go. Yeah, I guess just fall into degeneracy would be. Noble priests and their handmaidens fall into degeneracy. There we go. Handmaids. Right? Yeah, handmaids. Okay, we'll stick with that. I think that covers it for now. Like I said, I think even putting it as far back as 100 years is being too generous, right? Like realistically, let's say all the squires were like 7 to 9 when they started. Like at most, I think we can make them like give it like an 80-year time frame, right? So 80 years before the present day. Yeah, I think we're gonna do that. Like, I think this is the most generous I can be in terms of Wolnir and ages and all that jazz, you know? Is it ever addressed why the profane flame isn't used as a means of solving the dilemma of the firelink cycle and implosion of the universe, or tried to be used as such? Because the problem isn't getting an eternal flame, theoretically, Nick. Like, let's say that this is also why this is also why the idea that the Izalith was so desperate to create a first flame to replace the fading first flame is so dumb, because it fundamentally misunderstands the cosmology. The problem isn't having an eternal fire, it's having an eternal first flame. The first flame is the nexus from which all other fire disparity, the powers that be, is derived, right? Everything is ultimately connected to it. Think to how those are all connected by the wolf blood, right? So when the Abyss Watchers link the fire, the other Abyss Watchers that are remaining behind with their wolf blood end up also being affected and becoming lycanthropes, right? It's all connected, right? There's bonds and links. How loose or how grand on the macro scale that we're placing them, these all exist, and the entire universe is built upon these relations. That's part of what the blacksmith deity understood and took advantage of with his Titanite, his bond stone, right? It takes advantage of this fundamental principle of bonds and that the metaphysical bond that link the entire universe together as a web, right? So the point is, it doesn't matter if you create a, let's say it wasn't, let's take the dark out of the equation. Let's say they just found a way to somehow create a eternal, everlasting fire. That doesn't mean much if it isn't the first flame, right? This is why the only way that there's even a theoretical chance of being able to completely restore the Age of Fire is through actual embers directly from the flame that are held by the various Lords of Cinder and stuff like that, right? Is taking a piece and cultivating that piece, which is still connected to the fire. So that way, if the original fire is gone, that piece can still live on and potentially, essentially, kind of grow into be an exact, I guess for the sake of simplicity, we'll say like an exact replica of that original flame that was snuffed out, right? Because it is a part of it, right? In the same way that if you take a, with cloning plants and stuff like that, you take like a stem from a plant or whatever and you plant it, and then an exact copy of that plant will regrow or something. Kind of like that same idea, But again, the problem again is the problem for the gods and all their worshippers in the human world is that, well, the first flame is by its nature not eternal, and you cannot get around that, right? Hey, random question since it's timeline time. Could blue wyverns and new Londo babies be stuff that Gwyn Firstborn did with the whole lightning infusion, or only Big Gwyn could? Blue wyverns would be under Firstborn. Yeah, that would be under his reign. Because Koth and Velka aren't taking action until after Gwyn. You have to think about it. Why would Koth go after after New Londo when the gods are at their full military capacity on close watch of the country and all that? And as we can see with the Izalith scenario, Gwyn is absolutely ready to go to war like ASAP. In order to deal with any potential threats by the dark right now, compared to shortly after Gwyn links the fire, Londo's at half of its military capacity, roughly speaking, because of all the knights who fought in the Izalith campaign going off to die with him. You have a brand new king who has to now catch himself up and get himself, accustomed to new administration. As we know, he's a war god. He proves he's not built for politics. You have Velka, of course, on the inside to help you get direct access to the four kings yourself, right? Like, that is the opportunity, right? That's your opening where you're like, okay, we can go in and try to then take this over, right? And of course, the fire linking, of course, stuff just started. New Londo probably didn't even have a system in place yet for the fire link. There was probably something else that they were working on. So all that with New Londo takes place after Gwyn's already linked the fire. So the blue wyverns, which are used to help guard the entrance after the fact, that would also be under the Firstborn. And then as to the other thing about the new Londo babies and stuff like that, that would have to probably start with I can't speak to the specific babies, but the practice, which would of course affect the New Londo children by extension. Yeah, that had to have started with Gwyn and stuff. So yeah, because clearly the idea was to try to use New Londo as a sort of testing ground, and it would be under the idea of being like, again, you have the four kings acting as like these public officials on behalf of Anor Londo, and they're helping essentially the gods organize this, public, again, public dining hall, free food. Everyone gets to just enjoy and gorge as they please, right? But it's whatever the gods are cooking, right? So if the gods say, hey, we want you to put infuse that some sunlight in there, right? Or add some power of raw fire, actual fire, infuse that into your meals and things. We're trying to strengthen. Presumably, I would imagine the idea is to find ways to try to strengthen the seal ring of fire that's of course already in the humans, without actually giving the game away that that's what they have inside of them and that's the cause of their curse, right? So that seems to be the idea. And then all of that, and again, because the fire ember and stuff is involved, as well as Vamos comments, probably was with the help or thanks to Islith, that in large part they were able to regularly supply that, which is probably also another reason why Islith's betrayal and cutting off contact was a bit of a problem when they were. So yeah. Whew. Hope that answers the question. Anyway, back to it. I remember reading this article 2 years ago. It's one of my fave, but it can't be the same as the original thing, right? 2 years ago for Profane Capital, I am. Yeah. Article was originally posted in 2021, so it's been 5 years. So yeah, it should be. I mean, it's probably been edited, updated, changed, new reference images. I mean, in 5 years, I've probably done something to it at some point, probably. But like, yeah, the analysis itself should be the same. All right, so Profane Capital. Yeah, only thing next is probably figuring out when exactly we should have. Yeah, the only thing would be figuring out when exactly we would want to have the drift stuff placed, and we'll have to wait till at least the Sully stuff. So for now, we'll move on. We'll move on to Abyss Watchers now. Oh, yeah. So what are some of the stuff that would go in a post DS1 thing? Sifs, Descendants, Continue, Gravekeeping, Artorias' Grave. Let's put it as Continue Protecting or Defending Artorias' Grave. I can't remember Grave. Only O1B. More drifters. Yeah. Let's see. For now, let's put this. Wolf of Faron carries on Sif's legacy. We'll put that. as Artorias Gravekeeper. There, that I think is fair. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so it's more like that it's likely that it's Gwyn infusing wyverns and people with lightning. Super Susie question. Sorry. Oh, okay. If you're talking about the actual wyverns receiving the lightning, then yes, that's also Gwyn. That's also Gwyn. I guess you could make an argument that maybe the gods decided last minute to do it. But if they've already collected wyverns and stuff like we see with the Storm Drake, and also as we see after the dragon hunts collecting arch dragons like Midir and like the two one we see in the Drake in the was it the Valley of Drakes and the other one in the Painting World. I think it's fair to say that probably the lightning thing was something that they were experimenting with on earlier. It also gives them precedence for when they do it later on with, like, say, the Holy Beast and the Ulysseal Mausoleum and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, we've already done something like this before with the wyverns. Now, was the wyverns and the Holy Beasts done similar to New Londo, where it was done through eating, or was there some like actual magic ritual stuff done to infuse them with the power of sunlight so that way it would go down to their souls or whatever? That I don't know. I can't speak to that, unfortunately. I cannot tell you. All right, so Wolf of Faron and stuff. Drifters continue to visit Dark Room Garden to, let's just say, Artorias' grave, or visit the grave of Artorias, and are killed. Let's do it like that. Drifters visit the grave of Artorias, are killed. The Wolf Blood. Establishing, yeah, Faron is obviously remnants of Darkroot Garden. We know some parts of those ended up in DS2. So these would be the ones that left behind. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, wouldn't. Uh-huh. We see cell swords. Yeah. Darkroot Garden, Faron drifts to Lothric. There we go. Kailana reunites with the fair lady. Old Demon King. It's a bit weird to say. The old Demon King becomes king. King of Izalith. Kailana reunites with the fair lady. I think that's it. I do think that's it. Because, like, what other major events are there regarding Izalith, with the drift and stuff when that happens? Like what would I be here? Izalith the old chaos in Izalith drifts to Drang Lake. Yeah. Yeah, that's about right. Let's say this thing. Old Kazelov and Izalith ruins drift to Drang Lake. Chaos demons and daughters of chaos settle in remaining ruins. Are killed. Let's have that back up here. Should also mention snake men become wandering wandering, I mean, become vagrants. Snake men leave Lordran to become vagrants. I think that makes sense. In search of Seath and become vagrants. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to put it. You want to mention Dusk and Elizabeth if you haven't already? Yeah, probably. That'd be a good idea. Again, this would be stuff that would probably have to go under the 2 timeline just because it's like post Dark Souls 1 stuff. Drifters visiting to Grave Artorias are killed. Dusk and Elizabeth. There you go. Ulyssil Forest. We'll put that. Because the idea seems to be they staring in like places like the cave with that lake and other areas where they can just kind of like chill and away from society. You know, Arster dies and becomes reviled as the Impaler. Let's just say this and becomes infamous as the Impaler. Anything else really notable here before the drift for Faron? Not really. There we go. Yeah, okay. Let's also mention this since we're including stuff here. Enor Londo drifts to Drang Lake. Gwendolyn. Actually, no. Gwendolyn welcomes undead of the Undead Burg into Anor Londo. Anor Londo drifts to Gwendolyn, and undead settle in the remain, yeah, and the undead settle in the remaining Anor Londo ruins. There we go. There we go, same here. All right, and then basically do that until we get our Irithil properly done. Hey Celeste, good to see you in the chat. Okay, so yes, that covers a lot of that, like, well, that Dark Souls 3 stuff we're gonna have to put back there. When storytellers begin wandering the world of man. Let's put that, yeah. For converts. And then we get to Abyss Watchers here. Did we mention the? Did I mention the drift already over here? Am I crazy? Oh yeah, okay. Darkroot Garden, far on drifts to Lothric. Okay, we do have it here. Drifters to Faron are killed. There we go. So Wolf of Faron does all that, right? Old Wolf of Faron collaborates with undead to establish the Abyss Watchers. There we go. Da da da. Actually, something worth including, right? Undead settlement. Now we can actually include mention of this to be relevant. Undead settlement. Exiles criminals. To Faron Forest. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Undead settlement seals pus of man from dead as morticians. Actually, that's kind of implied as morticians. All right. Let's say punished criminals, because we all know they're not every criminal is let's say condemned. Yeah, condemned criminals to we all know that there are plenty of criminals there that aren't getting kicked out. All right. Anything on the Wave Keepers? I think we need to go into specifics about the development of the whole stuff with the blood and things for Abyss Watchers. Faron Keep is yeah. The Abyss Watchers construct Faron Keep. I can't remember how I wrote this and some of the others. Let me see. Yeah, okay. The Abyss Watchers construct Faron Keep. Okay. So that's done. Doing that. Question is just the alliance with Lothric and stuff. Yeah, so the question is just like, do we place this before or after Osseros coming to power, right? So off the top of my head, I'm thinking, I guess the question is, do they establish relationships with Lothric first and then later the stuff with the Crystal Sage is worked out? Or is it all done like at the outset? No, it has to be it happens later because the Crystal Sage doesn't even get to train many to become the many sorcerers and stuff to become the Abyss Watchers before the others have to go. So yeah, it happens subsequently, yeah. So we'll put it before Osseros becomes relevant here. Let's see, construct Faron Keep, the Abyss Watchers, travel the world, hunting the Abyss. There we go. Loki, but how can you be so sure about all these elements of the story slash lore? I mean, don't you ever find yourself thinking maybe Miyazaki didn't think about that, or that's simply random? Yeah, sure. You can't ever say anything with 100% certainty, right? Well, here's the thing when we're dealing with any type of storytelling, right? Especially storytelling where it's not spelled out to you expressly, right? There's always the possibility that you are going to make a mistake and misread the author, right? We humans are pattern recognition animals, and we are also very bad at pattern recognition, right? Like that's just how we are. As a result, you are going to inevitably make mistakes, right? That's just going to happen, right? I've made mistakes in my own work, and I've over the years, and I've corrected myself on these things, right? Because again, there's no such thing as good writing. There's only good rewriting, and good. Same thing as there's a good analysis and just, you know, going through the evidence and the factors and everything again and again and again, and always be willing to consider alternative possibilities or something. And hey, you may find something that, hey, you didn't know. But the point is that, like, sure, is it theoretically possible that one detail or something that we have either Miyazaki didn't consider, or it is not a direct outgrowth of something that Miyazaki had considered, right? It's just something that is completely random, completely unconcerned, completely detached from reality in total. Sure, that is always a possibility, right? But we are dealing with likelihoods, right? And when we have something as large and as cohesive as the Dark Souls games are across all these games, using a reasonable methodology, right? To analyze them, at some point you kind of accept, yeah, there's a story to these games. Yeah, there's definitely actual patterns to these games. And yes, we can take those to a certain limit to be able to follow and construct a intentional narrative. Now, does that mean that we could cross the line and get into unintentional stuff that the developers had never considered, or they're never doing so, or that were never on their minds necessarily when they do so, or maybe they didn't have this all thought through to such specifics or something? Yeah, totally. But I'm not going to now be calling balls or strikes on that stuff when it's, you know, unless it's beyond the reasons of the scope of the analysis itself, right? So, like, if not, that is not the case, and the probabilities of what it is like, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense, and all of this kind of fits together, there's nothing contradictory and breaking from the cohesion there at any point, then I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna like, second guess myself on that basis. I'll second guess myself on like, okay, do I think the evidence is strong enough? Okay, is this a point that's built on strong circumstantial evidence, for example? Okay, well, is there anything reason that we could take away the supports of that circumstantial evidence and thereby make the entire conclusion of the analysis from those points moot? That's always something that can happen. Like I said, you do it again and again and again and again, right? It's another reason why I tell people that I'm not too concerned about people coming to my exact conclusions, even though obviously I think I'm right. Duh. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sharing them. But the point is that the goal is ultimately more so about people, having a better data set they work with so they can come to their own conclusions, right? And then if there happens to be mistakes on my part, then eventually that's going to drip down over to me, and then I can make the correction, right? Because ultimately, I'm not concerned about, I'm more concerned about eventually being right than always being right, right? Do-do-do. Da-da-da-da-da-da. This actually it actually reminds me of like, yeah, because like, for example, what's one thing, what's one good example of this, I think? Oh yeah, for sure. Like, so for example, one of my points, I talk about this in Abyssal Archive, like one of my points, I talk about the idea of the engorged hollows, right, with the big bloated faces and all that stuff in Ariamis, and I end up my conclusion from the analysis is that I can connect the Jeremiah. Now that is something where I could totally see myself being wrong on that, and there's actually some alternate or unrelated explanation that's unconnected to Jeremiah or is connected to some other stuff or whatever, and that I had got that wrong. I see that as a possibility, right? If I were to like critically analyze my work, I'm like, this is perhaps one of the points where I could see that I could see something else possibly arising from this. Not that I don't have confidence in my analysis, but I'm like, okay, I can see potential where this is something that could be wrong in the future. Now, so far, I haven't seen anything else come up, period, let alone anything convincing. So here I am kind of just waiting to see if anyone comes up with something better on that front, right? But again, that's sort of the point, is that, I have done as I always like to say, the most comprehensive, consistent, and comprehensible account of Dark Souls lore ever to be put to paper. Now I'm trying to see what the community does with that, right? What they build upon, adds, maybe alternate, that type of stuff. Da-da-da. Cell swords. Yeah, that thing really there. Of course, there's the metals. That relates to the 4. We don't really need to pay attention to that. Because the bridge and stuff. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Let's actually include with Lothric's blessing, just so we have that established earlier. Actually, since we're on farm, this is another good example. Like one of my earlier this is way back when I was on doing the Google Drive docs on Twitter. One of my conclusions I had was because of the graves and everything and the cause of the poison in the swamp, and I basically kind of just shrugged and ultimately said, well, maybe like some remnants of the abyss and the abyss watchers, when they get buried, ends up seeping in and ends up causing some of the rot that we see in the forest, right? Like that was kind of like that was the best conclusion I could come up with the evidence that I saw available at the time. What I hadn't considered were, well, there's really two factors. One was sort of the geography and the way the slant and stuff. Now my analysis factors that in. So part of that was definitely a contributor. I was not really kind of fully grasping the difference in elevation between outside of Faron Keep and inside of Faron Keep. And two, and this was the big one, is the crabs. I had never verified the resistances of the crabs and saw the poison resistance of that. And if I had factored that in from the beginning, I would have obviously gone to the conclusion I currently have, which is much more naturalistic than, of course, me just saying, ah, well, maybe the abyss did it, right? So that was one of those examples where it was like, I was like, oh yeah, I was wrong on that. Now you could argue how big or important that was in the grand scheme of things, but it was something I was legitimately, I kind of threw up my hand, said, okay, well, maybe it's this based on what we got, but I was wrong about that. And then I, of course, for the website and for going forward, I had I've corrected the analysis ever since, right? And made sure to include the additional evidence, right? And that's a case where, again, I don't mind being wrong, because again, ultimately, what I cared more about was making sure that, oh, I found the evidence I was missing and was able to therefore factor that in to come to at least a more likely to be correct conclusion, right? Which is always what we want. Is we want more we want better accuracy, right? Yeah, corrupted. More to be found. Yeah, along with Drain Lake and stuff like that. Yeah, so there's nothing really to add there. This is just the stuff on their training. We don't need to look for Grave anymore. Oh, right. The Abyss Watchers construct Baron Mausoleum, or construct Mausoleum over the catacombs of Garthus. Yeah, have that established. What's another one? That actually reminds me as well. There we go. Irithel constructs Mausoleum over catacombs of Garthus. Yeah, just so we have that established. Recently started a lore play on DS3. I'm craving for knowledge. Well, yeah, that was the first lore play I did. I think some of my first streams, right? So I think this is when I first started streaming, as I recall. So apologies for the video quality and mic quality compared to today. It's definitely I can definitely see myself redoing the Dark Souls 3 lore play. I'd probably do that if we ever had an Abyssal Archive 3 come out. I would probably want to redo the entire lore play and stuff. All right. All right, so stuff like Hawkwood, let's do this. Hawkwood, desserts, Baron Keep. There we go. There we go. Let's see, what do we got here? There's something blurry about that image. Might just be my imagination. Or that, or I probably got it from a YouTube vid or something. Let's see. Yeah, the 4. Yeah. The Faron followers. Faron followers. Tail, the Abyss Watchers and kill. Corrupted Abyss Watchers are killed by Faron followers. We'll mention this because obviously we know what happens to the Faron followers later. Passaman, all that stuff. Burial. There. Okay, so then we can move on to Crystal Sage stuff. Yeah, it happens to happen here. Crystal Sage Academy. There you go. So let's see. The Lothric, Crystal Sage forms pact with Faron Keep. And constructs Academy. Lothric and Crystal Sage form pact with Faron Keep to construct Academy. Let's see. Hazel is born at sorcery at Sage's Academy. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, Hazel is born at Sage's Academy. Crystal Sage develops new sorceries for Hazel's training. Huh. Yeah, nothing else really we want to add there. Nothing there. I don't think we're gonna mention the embers here because they're not particularly relevant for this. I think the invention of different types of smithing is more important than what we're working with here. Poor Hazel. Oh, let's see. Born at Sage's Academy. Academy apprentices. Let's see. Faron Keep constructs Crystal Sage Academy in Sorcerer Academy for Crystal Sage on Road of Sacrifices. Hazel is born at Sage's Academy. Prospective Abyss Watchers learn sorcery at Faron Academy. Hazel is born at Faron Academy. At Faron Academy, sorcerer apprentices. Create insect black bug pills for create black bug pills. Yeah, for now I'll include that for Abyss Watchers. Hazel is born at Faron Academy. For Hazel's trading. Right. We know with the stuff with the Dream Chaser already, so really it's just them linking the fire here, right? Abyss Watchers, Split, and Swordsman link the fire. Travel to Lothric. To Lothric and they're already at lot. Travel to Lothric Castle and let's just say and link the fire. Travel to Lothric Castle and link the fire. Sorcerer, Abyss Watchers become lycanthropes and are hunted. To Lothric Castle. Actually, let's do this. Abyss. Swordsman, Abyss Watchers, link the fire, and acquire a throne. There we go. So become lycanthropes and are hunted. Wait, it wasn't a president. It was sorcerer acolytes. That was the term. I was like, no, it's not apprentices. It's acolytes. There we go. Certain acolytes become deep adherents. No, leave travel to certain acolytes travel to Cathedral of the Deep as new converts. Faron Keep removes Seath. Seath torch from we don't need to mention this just him going there and stuff. That's fine. Da-da. And are hunted. Acolytes degenerate become the elder Gru's. Gru descendants are born to elder Grus. Acolytes become elder Grus, and acolytes hunt in Faron Keep and become elder Grus and are hunted. Faron Keep falls to ruin and becomes a poison swamp. Acolytes hunt in Faron Keep and become elder Grus. Gru descendants are born to elder Grus. Grus encounter let's see, wandering Grus encounter Izalith and form and establish relations. Gru priests learn pyromancy from Izalith. Yeah, this is fine. Become a poison swamp. Establish Gru learn pyromancy from Izalith. I think it's about it until we get to what's their face? The Jeremiah wannabes. Xantho, yeah, the Xantho scholars. There we go. The researchers in yellow. Then we have more stuff to include there. For now, let's focus on the Shrine Handmaid stuff now. So, and we have to include Hodrick as well, right? Oh, this is gonna be awkward. Is Hodrick before or after Sully, I guess would be the question, huh? I think I mentioned Sully Vaughn at all when talking. Yeah, no, we don't. Don't really mention Irithel either. Yeah, because all of it has to revolve around Hodrick. There's an argument to be had that Hodrick isn't the origin of the Covenant, right? Might just be another member, maybe one of the few surviving members left, because they seem to have a very short lifespan. What a shocker. Loki is more married DS1 lore than DS3 LOL. Well, it's just a lot to keep track of for all the lore, chat. I'm constantly forgetting with all of them. Yeah, I don't know how old we can really say. I mean, Makers doesn't go back to the beginning of the undead settlement because of, like, the bodies and stuff they pull up and things are kind of proof of that. So they could be as recent as Hodrick's time. Let's see. Yeah, there really isn't too much. Okay. I want to actually add the mercenary stuff. Where's Far On? It's drifters, right? Drifter. Criminals and Lothric's undead mercenaries. Actually, let's just say this: criminals and undead. Let's say meander into Faron, or travel to Faron. Actually, no. Criminal and undead drifters to Faron are killed. There we go. Yeah, criminal and undead. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yo, it's official! What's official? Did something crazy get confirmed or something? Like, what are we talking about here? What type of official? I'm getting stuff from Nobre sent me some stuff. Oh! Are we talking about the Elden Ring film? We're getting some shots of ER areas. Coolio. Oh, 1 second, chat. The dog is barking, so. All right, I'm back. Where were we? No, seriously, where were we? There's a shot of America and she was wearing shoes. Blasphemy. Oh, is that the... Do we see her wear shoes? In the... She definitely doesn't wear them in the DLC cinematic, but in the other cinematics, does she wear shoes? I'm pretty sure her feet aren't really shown to any degree. So I guess you can argue. I mean, I have a bigger problem with any live action actress trying to portray America, though. Like, she's such a larger than life figure. And like, I just don't know. Like, look at this picture. At least for me, it looks like someone in a cosplay. And again, that's not to besmirch cosplayers. There's a lot of really great cosplayers out there, but like, it doesn't look like, oh yeah, I'm looking at America. Then again, maybe they'll do some movie magic in the editing room and it'll look more professional. But at least with the shots we're getting, it doesn't look all that impressive. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here, so... You know the drill, Shrine Handmade. Oh. No, Hodrick. There we go. Let's see. At what point in the timeline will we have to put it, right? Like... I said something before, but YouTube might have language filtered it one more time. If so, If so, Nick, be careful, but like, yeah, if you can actually explain to me what you're so excited about, if it's related to ER or not, I would love to know. To Arthas Rise and Falls. Yeah, these names are gonna get so changed up for sure. God, so much crap is happening. I feel they will do justice to the movie. We will see. I am cautiously optimistic. The real secret in the statues, the fact Ratigan walks without shoes too. I mean, I can understand wanting to have the actors not walk barefoot for so many takes and stuff like that, but it is going to be weird. It's gonna be weird seeing Marika actually wearing shoes. Granted, they could just have it cut so that way you never actually see Marika's feet. That could be one way they handle it. Yeah, we don't need that. So Hodrick stuff has to happen earlier. And the question would just be, is it before or after Sully? Slavon isn't mentioned here. No, yeah. Yeah, it has to be before Sully. Or at the very least, before Sully becomes Pontiff. Yeah, for now, let's put this here. We'll call it the Cirrus family. Cirrus is born to... No, wait. Dream Chaser is born to Cirrus and Hodrick. Cirrus is born to Dream Chaser. I'm just gonna assume this for the sake of simplicity. We're not gonna be like, oh no, it was actually Dream Chaser's the youngest brother or something like that, you know. Cirrus becomes Dark Moon Knight in Irithyll. Dream Chaser becomes Soldier in Lothric. Dream Chaser in Irithyll. Hodrick turns undead. And is exiled as Madman. Hodrick travels to Undead Settlement and joins the Mound Makers. But I will say establishes. We'll assume he's the founder for the time being, and all right. Blah. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So this would be after. Okay. Okay, yeah. I see it now. Yeah, I see it coming together then. So this has to happen before. Oh wait, what did I say? High Priestess, Brian Handmaid, and Hodrick. All right, there we go. That I was like, that was wrong. So let's see. Something like this. Oh, yeah, okay. So you have this. So something like that. Right? Yeah, YouTube can be very sensitive to a lot of kind of words regardless of context. Yeah, that's one of the problems I've noticed. I think if they'll show America, it'll be for very little time. She's got, after all, not exactly someone to drop every 5 minutes. I agree. I don't think she's going to be featured too heavily. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the stuff they show her for is for flashbacks or for stuff people are talking about regarding her more than anything, or maybe even something for the opening sequence of the film. Is it a lore thing that she doesn't wear shoes? If not, then I think it's okay. I can't say because I'm not an expert in ER lore. I haven't finished my analysis or anywhere close to doing it to the point I'd feel like an expert in the lore. So I can't tell you. All of her depictions, to my memory, don't involve her having shoes. But they also tend to be also showing her in like sort of transcendent state. I don't think her statue with Mesmer even shows her feet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it just has it covered. So you could maybe argue in that situation she might be wearing shoes. She doesn't wear them during the cinematic when she's first becoming a god. Which you can argue might be a little weird. Considering she's stepping through like flesh and bone and shit. Like you'd feel like you'd want to wear some shoes for that girly. So that might be a little bit odd. And then for the cinematic where the Elden Ring is broken, I don't recall them ever showing their feet in any degree that you could determine whether they're wearing shoes or not at that moment. So like like we've never really seen her with shoes, but I can't say it's like absurd that she has them either, right? It's legit not letting you see these messages. That's crazy. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I can't help you with that. Anyway, so let's go back to what we have here. Yeah. Let's see. Dream Chaser. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. Sarah's Family Fun Time. All right, there we go. There we go. Yeah, so Sully does have to be. Oh, okay. That would create some. That'd be the first thing with my analysis. I'd have to question timeline stuff then, because Cirrus and the Dark Moon Knights get purged during Sullivan's rise to power. So that can't be it. Yeah, so it can't be that her father disappears too. Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying, though. I'm just saying that, okay, it would be, both of them would be, okay, yeah, both of them would be okay, yeah. Never mind. I'm confusing myself. Okay, yeah, I'm confusing myself. Yeah, definitely for sure. Sirius might be born beforehand, of course. Yeah, because he has to at least grow. Yeah, okay. For her to have a granddaughter and stuff like that. She's an old woman, very clearly old woman. Sirius. Oh, yeah. Sirius becomes Dark Moon Knight. Oh my god, come on. Let me do this. There we go. Yeah, sorry, chat. Trying to fix this all up. Okay, so Sirius becomes Dark Moon Knight. Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so all of that would be consistent then. So yeah, before Sullivan. Actually, let's have this now. Aerithal Knight fun times. Let's see. Sirius becomes Dark Moon Knight. Podrick turns undead. Okay, yeah. Podrick turns undead and is exiled as a madman. Podrick travels to the undead settlement, and like I said, for now we'll say, and establishes Mountain Makers. Right? Yeah, only place we have that here. If he doesn't establish, he at least just join it. And then nothing else really crazy significance happens with she returns after, and this is for Sully. Yeah, okay. Hodger travels and establishes the Mound Makers and stuff like that. Rise of Sullivan. Sirius turns undead and escapes. As Errant Knight. There we go. So that somewhere in the Sully point, you know, that's when the purge happens there. Okay, the timeline is good on this front. That's, you know, that's crazy, actually. Because taking that all into consideration, if Dream Chaser is Sirius's dad, yeah, if that is true, man, his life really sucks. His mom kind of gets kind of taken out and becomes like basically bound as like this immortal in the shrine. Then daughter ends up being purged in the neighboring country she's serving in, and ends up becoming basically like on the run because she's on, you know, as undead and stuff like that, right? Can only, if family can only ever visit when they're all going to the shrine, and then he seems to follow the same path, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, okay, yeah. Travels to Faron Keep. Dream Chaser. Actually, no, Dream Chaser undead and is exiled to the undead settlement. Dream Chaser travels to Faron Keep and is killed by poison. Right? Yeah. Or and there we go, yeah. There we go. The life of an NPC in Dark Souls is just, yeah, man, my life sucks. Yeah, it's just laying it all out there. I'm just kind of like, yeah. Yeah, I can see why this guy decides he's just gonna, like, you know, take a bet and jump right into the whole try to become an Abyss Watcher thing, despite Faron Keep clearly having already fallen for a good while by that point, right? It's basically kind of just him indulging his dream to join the Abyss Watchers and stuff like that. After basically losing everything else in his life, all he has left to cling to is a dream. Like the fanmate says, you know, dreams in this dying world. But yeah, this whole entire family story is just depressing. Their life is just a bunch of terrible circumstances. Like, man. I somehow find even more tragedy in all this, you know? Yeah, okay. This is just for stuff on Cirrus and Handmade and all that. Nothing too important. Yeah, because most of the rest of the stuff involves present day stuff. Okay. I think the only one with a good life is Shalquar, cat privilege. I mean, Shalquar, that's because Shalquar just sits back and watches other people suffer. She has no connections or care for anyone or anything, really. She only has a vague interest in the Age of Fire continuing, probably because it lets her be able to enjoy humans suffer more. Lets her enjoy basking in sunlight while she sees all the humans, you know, run around freaking out. Oh, Vinheim. How could we forget Vinheim? We have Vinheim lore. Let's see. Vinheim establishes field trip research system for students, for student body. Rather the dragon school. Oh, 1 second, chat. All right, all good. DS2 aura. What are we talking about, no, Bray? DS2 aura. Let's see. So yeah, the Magic Academy stuff there. We know the water logging. Yeah, okay, with the rings. Okay, yeah, fine. New developments in sorcery sword play. Nothing really notable. Oh, of course. Yeah, we have to mention this. Far on keep. Dragon School sends sorcerer swordsman on special mission to Faron Keep. There we go. The Dragon School sends sorcerer swordsman on special mission to Earthel. I forget how we wrote this in Dark Souls 1. I'll change it to be more consistent, like, later. PS2 timeline is hype moments in Aura. After you're done with the timeline, are you interested in making a video explaining in depth? No. No, not at all. Like I said, I'm doing this for a related project. In the future, sure, I would love to do YouTube stuff for all my content I have here, but like I said before, polls and stuff show that, you know, you guys in the general sense want me to prioritize the website in all things. YouTube is very much at the bottom. Let's see. Besides, if you really want the full explanations, like, you guys can read my content. I have all the Dark Souls 2 and 3 stuff basically on here. So one such warrior died within the road like it was. We do have the Sullivan stuff there, but do I mention them being imprisoned and or dying? For now, no, because I don't think I did so for Dark Souls 1 either, right? So yeah. It's just about the practices, nothing crazy. Yeah, nothing really to say here. Yeah. Yeah, so the only thing we would have to talk about here is the collapse of Vinheim's the Dragon School spy network in Vinheim. where we would even put that relative to the timeline. Let's put it here for more. Vinheim Vinheim Revolution. Let's put it. Nope, that's not wrong. Keep putting the wrong thing. Vinheim. Oh, whoops. Vinheim purges the dragon schools spies spy network. Orbeck turns undead and travels to Lothric. It's the thing about him fire linking, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, he's not enkindled as far as we know. For research. Yeah, that's basically it, right? Orbeck fulfills mission. I recall it was something like this, right? Yeah. What does it have to be? So let's say this. Dragon, schools, spy, fail, mission, and are exposed. Or we should say fail necessarily. Yeah, you know what? This all falls under the purges the school network, right? However the circumstances, it all falls under there. So I don't think we need to get too caught up in details on how to word that. Okay, we're good there. Okay. Okay. Great Swamp is a similar thing. What's his Coronix, right? Yeah. All right, does Coronix have a special title or ba-ba? Apparel. Nothing really we need to include there. Same stuff, yeah. Oh yeah, let's see. Great Swamp Revolution. Again, we'll put both of these here and I'll figure out if we want to put them earlier or later. I mean, Orbeck's can't be too far removed, I think, from current events, so his is probably around a good spot. Great Swamp Revolution. Cornix becomes... Yeah, old Cornix turns undead and becomes and travels to the undead settlement. You know how that goes. Actually, I should probably move that to even later, right? Because this happened, yeah. Probably move it closer to when the current events are happening. Anyway, it doesn't matter. For now, we'll keep it as a card becomes Restorer of Lost Pyromancy. Or rather, let's just Cornix restores. Lost pyromancies. Engi's poison. Pyromancy. Becomes heresy no longer. Oh, let's put it like this. Is accepted as orthodoxy. We shouldn't put that. Is accepted despite heresy. Yeah, that's better. That's a better way to phrase it. Boost mind. Undead pyromancers travel to Faron Keep to settle in swamps. That reminds me, back to Fall of Faron. Faron Academy falls to ruin. Yeah, Faron Academy falls to ruin. And becomes flooded swamp. There we go. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Everything else with him is like modern stuff, basically. We have, of course, the hunts and things. Do we need to point out frickin' Cuckoo Lady for anything particular? Not really right now. Until like post hunts, I think she becomes relevant, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay, there we go. Then we can point out how he gets captured stuff later. Okay, so I think we're finally getting... to the Sully stuff, chat. I think we finally focus on our friend Sullivan. Oh my god, after all this jumping around, I think we're finally getting to Sullivan. Oh. Let's do some of the giant blacksmith stuff real quick. Andre becomes apprentice to giant blacksmith. Giant prisoner becomes Erithal dungeon prisoner, becomes apprentice to giant blacksmith. There we go. Both of those, that of course has to happen with both of them at some point. Some point before the Sully takes over. You probably argue post Irithel for the one giant, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, anything with Katarina? No, it doesn't really have any additional history besides anything we connect to Provine Capital. Solaire, same thing. It's mostly about his equipment and stuff. It's not relevant. Ludlith. No, because he's still asleep, right? Like, yeah, he's good and done. Nothing else with Aldia, right? Until after twin princes are born and stuff. Emma, no, I think we got all the relevant stuff with her. Alceros, I think we got the relevant stuff with him. Dark Wraiths. Dark Wraiths only until after Rosaria do they become relevant again. Same with Drang Knights. We have to wait till the Eldritch. Is there anything else with Kareem I'm forgetting? Yeah. All right. Our good old Sagel. And down here we have our stuff with the priests. Obviously, the R store stuff. Morn. Different rings. Let's see. Should probably mention the Braille stuff. Just because it comes up so often. Mm-hmm. Actually, where oh, heralds are right there. Okay. Way of White Holy Women. Braille. Scriptures. Way of what? Wait, let's see. The Way of White creates Braille scriptures for holy women. There we go. Let's say this actually in general. Braille scriptures are created for blind holy women. That actually has to stop here. There we go. Yeah, this is because it has to be after this, because this is when blindness takes currency for those who could be prospective firekeepers. Yeah. The stuff with Drummond and everything. Yeah, we already talked about the stuff with the undead clerics, and then it's just Aegon and Arena. Obviously, they're their own thing. Velka's stuff is related to Sully, really. Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah, it looks like we can finally move on to Sully. Sullivan is born in Ariandel and studies and learns sorcery. I think that's the only thing of note that he does in Ariandel is he's a sorcerer, right? And ingratiates himself to Dark Moon Knights. Yeah, okay. Okay. Heading up into It's the mansion and all that. I don't think we need to mention the mansion specifically. I think that we can file that under ingratiates himself to Dark Moon Knights. In fact, you know what? Forget Dark Moon Knights, ingratiate himself to Gwendolyn specifically. Gwendolyn tasks Sullivan with expanding sewer system. Irithel sewers. Let's see, Sullivan discovers the profaned capital. Begins construction and discovers, yeah, he begins construction, discovers the profane capital. That's fair. Sullivan secretly hires Gilligan and investigates the profaned capital. Sullivan discovers the profaned flame. And kills Gilligan. Yeah. But with Gilligan. Oh, actually, instead of saying discover, because it's like researches, studies the profane claim, and kills Gilligan. Gilligan is killed. Let's say that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry I'm late, Loki. No problem, Ted. Take your time. We're not in any rush. There we go. Okay. Gwendolyn falls ill. And installs Yorshka as captain of Dark Moon Knights. Gwendolyn falls ill and retreats to Anor Londor ruins. Takes holiday. Oh, how's the word? Gwendolyn tasks Yorshka with captaining Dark Moon Knights in his stead. Sullivan imprisons Gwendolyn in Anor Londor ruins. There we go. Sullivan secretly imprisons Yorshka in Church of Yorshka Tower. in and Orlando ruins. Yeah, okay. He gets Yorshka imprisoned. So are Sullivan and Yorm bros? I mean, Yorm's not around at this point. He's gone. In fact, actually, that's a good point that I need to mention. I don't think we mentioned Profane Capital. Drifts to Lothric, right? Yeah, no, only Karthus. All right, for the sake of keeping it together, the profaned capital, the ruined, the abandoned profane capital, drifts to Lothric. All right, there we go. The fall of Faron. Yeah, here we go, Sullivan. Sullivan purges Dark Moon Knights. Proclaims himself Pontiff and purges Dark Moon Knights. Sirius turns undead and escapes to World of Man as Errant Knight. Okay, there. Sullivan establishes, captures giant prisoner and establishes Irithel dungeon. Sullivan collects various specimens in Irithel dungeon. Sullivan gifts. I don't think we need to mention the Yorshka hammer and stuff. I don't think that's important. Sullivan to Irithel dungeon. Yeah, we have those who friendly array. We'll just have that all put on the. Oh wait, of course. How do we forget? Sullivan, Irithel dungeon. Sullivan captures profaned capital handmaids and recruits jailers from them. Yeah, so it's giant prisoner, the jailers, any of his enemies, all that. In Irithel dungeon. Oh yeah. Jailers are recruited from captured handmaids. There we go. And establishes Pontiff Knights. Pontiff Knights, Purge, Dark Moon Knights. There we go. Do you plan to publish the timeline to make a physical edition to AA? No, I will not be. I will not be publishing this timeline stuff. Again, this is purely. I may share this stuff in the future, right? I'm always gonna have the document stuff. I may share it in future streams and things of that nature. But as far as like a full like timeline or something, I'll be honest, I don't think we could even create a good readable timeline. Like if I wanted to do like a proper like timeline chart type thing, I don't think we could do it, honestly, for AA, even if I wanted to. So, but anyway, that aside, I no, not interested right now. Right now, focus is just on you know, just taking everything I've written and stuff and making sure that we have the timeline events written out. Like I said earlier when we were going through the Hodrick and stuff, there's new things I'm realizing where I'm like, oh yeah, you know, when you like kind of plot it out like this, you can kind of really see you know, there's just neat little details that you're like, oh, I didn't realize that before. That actually is really kind of neat how that all flows together. Unsuited labor. In Earthel Dungeon. Carla. Let's put it like this. Giant prisoner is captured. And Sullivan establishes Earthel Dungeon. Handmaids are captured in Earthel Dungeon. Jailers are recruited from captured handmaids. Carla is captured in Earthel Dungeon and abused by prisoner chief. Jailers torture, torment prisoners. Jailers torment prisoners and appoint prisoner chief. Yeah, we'll just have that. The crown for them. Yeah, it's just for the talk about the knights. The flame witches. They count as part of the Pontiff Knights, so we'll consider them part of that. Let's see. Undead become Irithel. New undead in Irithel become slaves. Not going to mention all the specifics with the slaves because, again, like, they're slaves. I think we have that all covered, so the Yorshka stuff is covered. I don't think we're going to mention the eyes yet either. Oh. This is a mistake, chat. 1 second. That's not supposed to be a quote. That's not supposed to be a quote. Okay, cool. There we go, chat. There we go. Oh, wait, 1 second. There we go. There we go. That's fixed now. How could we do that? I looked at that. I was like, why do I have such a giant quote here in Era? I was like, on Sullivan. I don't remember that being a thing. And then I read it. I'm like, oh, wait, no, this is the analysis on Dancer and Ford. Oh, speaking of. The dancer becomes Sullivan's dancer. Eldest daughter. There we go. Actually, no. Let's just say, Guinevere's daughter becomes Sullivan's dancer, because I don't think it's ever clarified if she's older or younger from any indication we have. Might make more sense if the older one is taken, but honestly, it can go either way. That's such. Let's see. Yeah. Not really relevant. We don't have to worry about the Naughty Sokonai until Oseros needs to start becoming a dragon and stuff, so that's not really relevant here. Right. That's for, yeah, okay, this is all the post. Okay, yeah, we don't have to worry about this now. All right, chat, I think we got through the Sullivan stuff pretty cleanly. It wasn't so bad. I was worried we were gonna have to deal with a lot of shit with Sully, but looks like that was pretty straightforward. If there's anything I forget, you guys can tell me after the fact, right? So next would be probably Aldrich, right? Or Londor. All right, let's do Londor then. Let's at least get the early stuff with Londor established. Koth encounters how do I want to put this? Yuria. No. Let's do it in order, right? So it would be Elfrida, Yuria, and Lillian. He doesn't really adopt them, so yeah. Friends? No. Apprentice? Let's consider him like a teacher. So, Koth encounters 3 sisters. Koth teaches 3 sisters. 3 undead sisters, we should say. Koth teaches 3 sisters. Koth and Velka collaborate to train 3 sisters. 1 second, Chad, I think the dog is barking again. Okay, I'm back. It begins, chat. It's beginning. She's starting to awaken her hunter instinct. Oh boy, she was barking at me because she couldn't reach a lizard at some place. I was like, okay, let me help you there. Let me help you get there. Let me help you, you little prissy princess. All right, so where were we? These are angels. This is way too late. Let's see. Koth and primordial serpents perish and Koth. Let's just do that, yeah. I will say for now, Koth leaves dying wish. And 3 sisters inherit Koth's dying wish. I'll probably change that later, but for now, just so we remember it's something like that. Stupid question, is Londor founded upon the ruins of New Londo? Like, are they the same place? No, it's obviously the name is obviously a reference to it, but you know, the idea being that the New Londo was kind of supposed to be like the Neo Ring City, and then Londor is essentially trying to continue that lineage. You know, it's kind of like the idea of how who inherits Rome, right? You know, we're the second Rome, the third Rome, blah blah blah. You know, all that jazz, right? That discussion that came up throughout history. It's kind of the same idea here where, you know, it's like New Londo was supposed to be the second ring city, right? The second capital of the Dark Lord and something like that. And then Londor now seeks to become the third ring city, right? Anyway, but no, the answer is that evidence points that Londor is actually established on the ruins of Astora, i.e. that the Sable Church destroyed Astora and then built their country upon its remains. And there we go. Yeah, these are just stuff on hollows. Mm-hmm. I like that shot. I forgot I took that shot. That's a really nice shot, chat. I just wanted to point that out there. I really like that shot, you know? That makes sense. The Rome metaphor helped. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Have a good stream. Thanks, Martonk. Have a good one yourself. So let's see. Where do we go here? Your dying wish. That's one thing I'm not always happy about with Japanese. Like, usually it is obvious, but like, you know, it's like like she probably was intended to say your dying wish will remain unfulfilled or something like that. But just because the way Japanese is written, like, it was probably supposed to be something like, Koth, I won't fulfill your dying wish, but the syntax would be, of course, well, Koth, not really the subject, but you know, the subject she's addressing, then the object of the sentence was the dying wish stuff, and then unfortunately we don't see what the verb would be at the end. That's one thing that kind of annoys me about the language, just because it's like, you know, I like it better when it's like, I won't fulfill your, you know, that type of thing instead. Yeah, this is just about the stuff she has. The Velka training we've already got covered. Let's see. 3 sisters topple Astora government and throw country into chaos. Actually, no. And establish the Sable Church would be the best way to put it. It's around this time they also are getting their knights, from what I recall. Leanne is blinded and becomes miracle teacher. Oh well. Scripture instructor. Actually, no. Scripture storyteller. Yeah, that's better. See, Arendelle. Yeah, with that, obviously Dark Wraiths. Let's put I don't want to. Nah, I don't want to say. Like, I was gonna say like something like to succeed, Londo, new Londo / Spring City, but like no. Place the cut set. What about the night? Anything on the knight's exact thing that I'm not remembering? Oh right, let's put that there. I should just put it like this: blinded, Lilianne. Elfrida trains knights from hollows. There we go. Let's just put it like this: trains hollows into knights for this specific case. I think that's it in terms of major points we want here. Table, church. Conquers Astora and founds Londor. Yeah, that's probably better than how I had it originally. Knights of Astora flee, escape, and travel to Lothric Castle. Just travel to Lothric actually would be fine. But the evil eye stuff, about the background and things, about why we okay. That's just culture stuff that happens in Londor. Okay. Oh, that reminds me, before I forget, let's include this here. Where is it? Lorian's wet nurse turns undead and travel and is exiled. Lorian's wet nurse becomes Pilgrim of Londor. Yep, before I forget that part. That has to go after, of course, the Chaos Demon Hunt stuff, so we'll put that there for me to remember for later. Only reinforces the stereotype of hollows being weak and deceitful. The famed Vinheim, stuff like Yol. Yeah, let's put Yol here. Yol. Actually, I don't think Yol is even important enough to mention here, right? Velkas, familiars, collect, hollows, wandering hollows across the world. Brings hollows wandering across the world to Londor. Yeah, that's fine. Let's make it even better. Velka's crows, just to be there. Yeah, nothing there we have to bring up. So that'll cover like characters like Yol and stuff like that. Hi, Loki. In terms of Londor, it also marks arguably the first time the dark becomes socially acceptable in a large civilization of the old world, dark miracles in particular. Yes, this is true, best guy. We don't really see, like in Dark Souls 2, it is established that at least some countries are more accepting of dark arts, which makes sense because, again, let's go back to the handy dandy, right? This is really wonderful, wonderful time for me to use these joke images, you know? Oh God. No, chat, what did I do? There we go. Almost made a mistake. Now, don't hit the stop stream button, Loki. Don't be stupid. I know, it's very difficult for you, but try the, what the hell? All right, all these, this is still one of my favorites, by the way. Oh wait, you guys can't see it. No! Okay, there we go. This is still one of my favorites, by the way. Anyway, back to the actual image. Okay. Yeah, this is good for you guys. Okay. So, back to this. So in Lordran, obviously, Way of White had a super huge presence. You were not, they were capturing and purging basically anyone that was even on the fringes of their area of control, right? So even fringe pyromancers and stuff would be captured. If you were not hiding in like a forest, like a witch coven, or a in a someplace really otherwise difficult to navigate, like the Great Swamp, you were going to be captured or killed. And if you were very unlucky, probably end up captured to Ariyama specifically, where it's like, okay, good luck getting back home from there. Right? Versus over here in Drain Lake, mankind have been living here to the point that they most of them probably even forgot about the gods and their existence and all that stuff, or they had very twisted versions of what they remembered about the faith and stuff like that. And there's probably also a decent chance that at least some might retain some of the old ways traditions. Though again, if assuming the gods did their job right, by the time humans spread that far, most of them probably were already massaged out of the dark for the most part. Ring City is Latin America. My theory that locusts enjoy tacos is confirmed. Yeah, they just all the way over here. Anyway, but the point is that we're so far removed from where the Way of White had central authority in order to impose you know, the religious dogma on the world, that it's not too surprising that there would be some countries that might be a little bit more accepting or still have dark as a part of the culture to some extent. Though obviously, once you have the Great Shift happening and you're having a bunch of that Lordran culture moving here and getting rebuilt, right, and proliferated over on this side, obviously that becomes something where the dark that gets stamped out, which is probably why we see so few countries which do this, right? And then of course, once the drift happens to Lothric and these two worlds get connected again, it seems to mostly, again, as far as we're aware, mostly go by the wayside. I probably more so just because of the faith in general and just generally how much time has passed, right? With so few countries there, I imagine it's just not that common. Though again, there's still maybe some indication potentially that they're still there, because Londor, for example, has like the Pale Shades, and they're at least doing some dark sorcery and have some connections, it seems to be, to Dark Souls 2 culture, with like the puppet claw things and the marionette claws or whatever they're called. But again, that may just be that just may be because like some DS2 culture is bleeding over and stuff like that. It's actually not where the shades are from, right? They're or where they're training or something. Mm-hmm. Probably worth pointing out there. Pale Shades, Hunt, Exiled, Hollows, exiled from Londor. There we go, secretly Hunt. There we go, Pale Shade Assassins. Yeah. Velka sends Londor spy agents to spy to Irithol and sends hollows of Londor to Irithol as spies. There we go. So that covers like some of the Kareem stuff that I was missing earlier. We know how that works out. Yeah. Interesting thing to consider looking at the timeline doing so. I wonder how much the Abyss Watcher's final missions were spent trying unsuccessfully to invade Londor, and how much them being positioned as the next Firelinkers was Velka using her influence, or through the Kareem Church's presence in Lothric, to influence political decisions to ask that the Abyss Watchers basically do the fire linking so they could dramatically be weakened, or even in ideal scenario taken out, for the sake of putting the pressure off of Londor. It makes you wonder, you know? Makes you think. Oh, this is another shot I really love with like Velka and stuff like that. I love that angle. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, this is where we're getting into the endings. Okay. We don't need to worry about that quite yet. So this stuff should be enough for now. Undead discover Holy Spring in Faron Forest. Way of White builds, constructs cleansing chapel. At Holy Spring. Pilgrims. Undead pilgrims flock to cleansing Holy Spring for cleansing. Way of White constructs the Cathedral of the Deep. um, and are killed and perish and die. To the cleansing chapel and perish in the holy spring. Way of White constructs the Cathedral of the Deep. To expand operations. So anything else we can really say? Travel to Lothrank. So you have corrupted Knights of Astora. Oh wait, that's actually Knights of Astora escape and travel to Lothric. To City of Lothric. City of Lothric. Oh, let's say travel to Lothric. Just in general, City of Lothric welcomes Knights of Astora as soldiers. Is there anything that really happens at this point with their operations? No. No, so I think this is where we get into Aldrich. Cleric, Irithel, Cleric, Aldrich, devours countless and becomes sludge. Sullivan sends, captures Aldrich in Cathedral. Well, that's it. Sullivan sends Aldrich to the Cathedral of the Deep. Let's do it like this. Aldrich is sent to the Cathedral of the Deep and is cleansed for cleansing. Now let's do it. Sullivan sends Aldrich to the Cathedral of the Deep for cleansing. Aldrich corrupts the holy spring during cleansing. Sullivan and is imprisoned in the cathedral. There we go. There we go. There we go. I'm feeling mighty happy about this. Now we don't need to mention anything. Well, I don't think we need to specifically mention the Katha stuff here. No, we don't need to mention the white trees or anything. Yeah, okay, nothing there. Prison, the deep, and stuff like that. Okay, so let's cut the discovers Holy Spring, the deep, and perish in the deep. becomes corrupted sludge. Devours countless humans and becomes corrupted sludge. Sullivan sends Aldrich to the for cleansing. Aldrich corrupts the deep during cleansing and is imprisoned in the cathedral. The deep begets repulsive monstrosities. Let's say it begets monstros let's say this begets monstrosities just for the sake of keeping it simple. With Archbishop, with McDonald, we should say, with McDonald. All right, so Sully sends Aldrich to the Cathedral of the Deep for cleansing with McDonald. Aldrich corrupts the deep, right? Deacons are recruited. Cathedral recruits deacons. Oh, I'm not doing this. Recruits bishops. There we go. Now it's proper. Recruits bishops to let's see, to contain the horrors arising from the corrupted deep. There we go. Yeah, we got that. We don't need to worry about the rings and stuff yet. Da-da. Anything else we want to say to there? Not really. Okay, yeah. Sullivan and Oseros collaborate to execute let's just say to make Aldrich a Lord of Cinder for Aldrich's fire linking. Collaborate to establish Aldrich fire linking system. Yeah. Right, okay. Like I said, this is the part where things get really complicated now, because we have a lot of stuff that's overlapping and taking place around the same time. So let's collaborate. Let's see. To establish, let's call it Road of Sacrifices. Yeah, so Sullivan and Oseros collaborate to establish the Road of Sacrifices. Makes sense. And then yeah, that basically be what we have right now, is we have the Road of Sacrifices. Evangelists, cathedral evangelists. Let's also do this. Bishops learn flame sorcery from McDonald. Sullivan and Ossos collaborate to establish the road of sacrifices. Cathedral evangelists. How do we want to put this? Cathedral evangelists. Collect undead to send along road of sacrifices. A sacrifices system. Then we'll have this. All right. Rise of the Deep, we'll call this. Aldrich's first stay. We don't need to actually say the begin containing. Yeah, we'll just say the cathedral begins containing the horrors that arise from the corrupted deep. Cathedral bishops learn flame sorcery from McDonald. Yeah, okay. Sullivan and Ossos collaborate to establish the road of sacrifices system. Cathedral evangelists collect undead to send along the road of sacrifices. Actually, do we want to put Sullivan? I want to put Sullivan after. Yeah, I might want to put Sullivan after the Rise of Londor specifically. Yeah, but that again, that'll be not right now. I'll worry about that later. Honestly, this kind of falls under the whole system thing, so. All right, so Aldrich's first stay. What do we have? Oh yeah, Klimt becomes third Archbishop. Of the cathedral as warrior saint. What else can we say? Because there's a lot of different things to include here. All right, let's start with this one. Sullivan sends Rosaria, or rather, Sullivan captures Rosaria, or send Rosaria is sent to the Cathedral of the Deep and is imprisoned and is captured as is captured. Yeah. Aldrich despoils Rosaria. Horace, Henri, etc. are born to Aldrich and Rosaria. Um, and corrupts her body and soul. Are born to Aldrich and Rosaria. What else do we want to include here? Anything specific on the capture methods? I don't think so. They do the different stuff to contain. I don't think we need to mention the stuff with the dogs even. I think that's too minor to really include in the timeline. Mm-hmm. Yeah, typical stuff there. Just the bag gets more. Yeah, okay. Okay. Cathedral, seals, front entrance. We'll mention that. That's relevant enough, I feel. And are captured. And becomes a prisoner. Becomes a prisoner. And becomes prisoners. And become prisoners. Aldrich devours all children. All children but Horace. Save Horace and except Horace and Henri. There we go. Aldrich repeatedly despoils Rosaria and corrupts her body and soul. But you know what Aldrich has done to Rosaria? You want to erase his existence? Yeah, there's no I don't think anyone can really try to spin Aldrich as a good guy. It would be quite the case. I would like to see what his defense attorney would have to say. Your Honor, my client was just hungry. Can you blame a man for his insatiable appetites? Yes, you can. Oh, right. Draying Knights. Sullivan. As prisoner with Draying Knights. There we go. Osro sends his royal guard and slaves to the Cathedral of the Deep. We know that with all the people going through. With Drang Knights and Giants. Giant slaves. We'll just shorten it to this. Everyone knows what cathedral I'm talking about. Da da da. I would defend Gwyn and never Aldrich. Wow, I am. Wow, I think that's saying something. You would defend Gwyn, but never Aldrich. Ooh. Gwyn has to feel he's like, listen, at least I have charisma. All right, yeah. Travels to Lothric Castle and links Aldrich links the fire and acquires a throne. Yeah, something like that. Cathedral hires executioner. For Horace and Henri. During night. Let's just put it like this. Executioner is killed, and Horace and Horace and Henri escape with Rosaria's tongue. Yeah, okay. Cathedral decline. Okay, so what would be the big thing? Oh yeah, Klimt defects to Rosaria and establishes fingers of Rosaria. That's happening around this point period, right? The cathedral tries and fails to begins and fail to contain horrors from the deep. To cleanse the deep of corruption. Begins attempts to cleanse the deep of corrupt. There we go. Yeah, learns fight from McDonald to contain horrors from the deep. Okay, but the tongues. In Aldrin's defense, he was trying to link the fire. Your Honor, my client was trying to accomplish the highest honor a man of faith can make in this world. He was trying to save the Age of Fire. Can we really blame him for the methods when it is ultimately being weighed against the total apocalypse? That would be how the Way of White would justify it, wouldn't they? All for the fire, that damn first flame. That damn fire. Yeah, okay. Sorry, Chad, I'm getting a little tired. I'm a little tired. It's not even late yet. Yeah, okay. Cathedral begins to embrace the deep corruption for protection. Yeah, we'll do that. I think that more or less covers it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So, let's do this. This makes sense for us. They see, you know, they're so desperate, they're sealing the front entrance, they're trying to contain everything. Desperate enough to embrace the deep for protection. He defects. Of course, Leonard. The Silent Knight Horus. Rosaria. Finger of Rosaria. Hunts, Henri, and Horus. Or Horus and Henri will put. Hunts, Horus, and Henri. Horus and Henri turn undead, and Finger of Rosaria is killed. Horus and Henri travel to Astora, Londor, and join the Sable Church. Horus and Henri become unkindled. We'll do that. There we go. What's the stream about? Mapping order events. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a timeline. We've done DS1. I'm working on through DS3s now. I'll defend C saying he at least gave us That's one argument to have, I am. Your Honor, my client has a very pretty daughter. All right, so let's go through. Pontiff set up a baby factory. We have that. Oh, right. Fingers of certain fingers of Rosaria become maggot men. Yeah. If that. So the actual thing there. Ta-da. Yeah, let's put this reborn. Let's just put this oft reborn fingers of Rosaria become maggot men. Cathedral wars with fingers. Tries and fails to purge fingers of Rosaria. Yeah, okay, we're good there. Was Henri aware of her role as a sacrifice? No. No, it becomes clear that she and Horus are largely unaware of how they're being manipulated. They're so focused on the revenge aspect against Aldrich, that they're not realizing how they are being used as hollows and stuff like that into, you know, at the very least. How do I put this? Henri for sure. To whatever extent she understands the possibility that she can be used as a future Lord of Hollows and stuff like that, she's obviously never follows through on it, and so is not interested. And to the extent that when Yuria realizes that we are the prospective Lord and are preferable, and Henri is preferable as our quote unquote spouse, it's clear that she's never told. She's never told the details. If she ever does hear the details, it's probably right before, you know, they use her for it. So yeah, I think when we like take in its totality, it's clear that all Horus and Henri know is that Lorndor wants them as part of their plan, needs them to become unkindled. This will put them in a position to chase after Aldrich when the emergency system, which they plan to activate, is performed, right? In the meantime, Aldrich will in the meantime, Horus and Henri will receive power from the pilgrims, right? Those pilgrims will give them the power so they can pursue and chase after Aldrich, right? And then in the end, as we see, depends on how the plan would go out, but in the end, we are the ones who will become the actual prospective Lord of Hollows, and Henri just becomes a candidate to transfer her power over to us. So yeah. Rosaria only has her services exchange for tongues. Kirk isn't yet because obviously we need Fair Lady to die before Kirk switches over. Okay, this is just all the present day stuff. Yeah. Leonard's also a little bit vague on when exactly he gets recruited. Obviously, Profane Capital has to at least be in Irithyll. Obviously, the Maggot Men have to start traveling over to Irithyll and stuff for Leonhard to have any knowledge about any of this. Dark Wraiths have to, yeah, Dark Wraiths need to be factored in next. And they... Free Day's takeover actually could be earlier. Like... It might be before Horus and Henri stuff, so... Until then... Let's see. Oh, yeah. Man, wouldn't that one finger of Rosaria really have liked to have a red eye orb? When going after Horus and Honorary would have been really useful at that time, you know? Let's see. Dark Wraiths. Travel to Cathedral of the Deep and join Fingers of Rosaria. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Dark Wraiths. Travel to Baron Keep and wreak havoc. All right, there we go. Then Kirk. Let's just get Kirk out of the way now. Kirk escapes and wanders. Kirk escapes and wanders the... Yeah, let's just say Kirk escapes and wanders Lothric. Kirk becomes Finger of Rosaria. Yeah, you know what? Let's just skip all, you know, just get escapes and becomes Finger of Rosaria. I think that we'll just have it all be 1 point. No need to overcomplicate it. Dunno creates funeral flame Dunno uses the Fair Lady's soul to create Chaos Blade. This Dunno forges Chaos Blade and Funeral Flame with the Fair Lady's soul. Dunno travels to Ariandel and goes mad. Then we have this. We already have the cell stuff. Nothing else really needs to be mentioned here. Yeah, we might be time to get back to I forgot, how much do I mention? I mention Elfrida quite a bit here, right? Like, yeah. Oh god. Yeah, this is gonna be a lot. Dark Rays had a generational run in the timeline, to be honest, lol. Yeah, I mean they had very minor role in DS2, very minor. But still, like they're out there, right? Obviously DS1, they had a pretty standout role in the first game already, as far as both plot and lore wise. And then Dark Souls 3, yeah, they're able to, we get the delivered on questions about them that 1 and 2 leave, and then, you know, managed to like kind of, they're not major, but they managed to like weave like a good like role where it's like, yeah, this feels right. Like this feels like what they would do. Okay. All right, with all of that in mind, Elfrida is like a big thing because it involves so many different like factors. So I think, chat, I think what I'm gonna do. Yeah, we've already gone for basically three and a half hours. I think we're going to end things here. And then we'll pick this back up next time. We'll focus on Frida, the Chaos Demon hunts, the Sandworm stuff, and we'll try to tackle as much of Lothric's decline and collapse as we can. The problem I can see is just that the decline and collapse alone are so complicated, and I wouldn't want to stop halfway with that one. But yeah, this is a lot. This is certainly a lot. I think I might also start organizing this into separate bullet points, maybe condense some things, add some stuff or what have you. Obviously we have a lot of stuff that would have to go in like a 1 or 2, mostly 2, part of the timeline. That's, you know, post Dark Souls 1, but not yet Dark Souls 2 stuff. And looking at this, I mean, I do feel like we've got like a good portion of the timeline covered. Like considering we're already at like, well, the other one was like 14 pages. We're already at like page 9 here. Like most of that is pretty written out, right? So I think it'll be comparable. Like what's in terms of like what articles I'm covering? We still have lots of Ari and Dell to cover. We have lots of Ari and Dell to cover. A bit of Archdragon Peak to cover, right, for the most recent events. Irithyll, I think, is pretty much covered. Sullivan, we still have quite a bit to cover. Gunder, we have a little to cover. Same with Untended Graves. Crystal Sages, we have a fair bit to cover. Oh, speaking of, let's actually include that. Crystal Sage begins doing studying the deep. Yeah, okay, there we go. There we are. Undead Settlement, again, still fair bit because we have the whole Evangelist with the return of Aldrich and stuff, but that's all post. That's all like post Lothric decline and stuff. Or at least it's part of the Lothric decline and collapse with the whole emergency fire linking system getting activated. Kareem, there's really just the Aegon and Arena stuff. I guess we can mention that in relation to everything. The deep, same with Sullivan, lots of stuff to cover for after Aldrich and stuff awakens. Same with Abyss Watchers and all the other, like Yorm and everything there. Chaos Demons, again, we have the war thing to cover, so that's going to be a fair bit in the aftermath that falling out from that. Oseros, Twin Princes, a little bit of the bridge because of the demon and stuff there. Prisoner of War. A little bit of Emma. Lothric first scholar, so good old Aldia's obviously got a bit still to play. Londor? Yeah, definitely a lot because that and Ari and Dell together will give us the rest of the Elfrida stuff, and then there's all the other stuff related to Lothric's collapse. Same with Lothric End. Mound Makers, I'm pretty sure Mound Makers is basically done. In terms of the events leading up to our awakening. Same with Ludlith. Same with Shrine Handmaid, I'm pretty sure. Same with Solaire, same with Katarina. Same with yeah, same with Vinheim. Great Swamp, we still have a little bit with Cornix and stuff because he has to get captured during the craziness taking over the undead settlement. So Hawkwood. Yeah, Hawkwood needs to be here. Hawkwood links to let's just say Hawkwood links the fire. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to look over this stuff and see if I'm doing a good job with ordering these things. Okay, so anyone has any last minute questions they want to throw at me, shoot now because we're about to wrap things up. So Giant Blacksmith, obviously we need to cover his death, but that's like with Aldrich's stuff and everything, so that's post. Oh, we didn't cover Andre flees and becomes Blacksmith of Firelink Shrine. Flees to Lothric Castle. All right. All right. I'm trying to think. Would Andre have fled before or after the giant prisoner did? Probably before. Andre escapes to Lothric Castle and becomes Firelink Shrine Blacksmith. All right, there we go. So good old Andre stuff is covered for now. Xanthos Scholars. Oh, Xanthos Scholars we'll need to cover. So obviously they overlap a bit with Londor as well. Crystal Sage Academy. Xanthos Scholars. There we go. We'll have that set up for next time. Lautrec, not important. Albert, Kamui, Crimhild covered. Undead matches. Yeah, that's probably relevant enough to include. Not exactly sure where on the timeline we'd want it to sit. I don't think we can limit it to just the post Dark Souls 2 era. Beyond obviously being after Ariandel. Yeah. It can't be post Dark Souls 2. Because I think at most we can just say that it happens after Ariandel creates the new painting. Right? So I think that leaves a lot of open room for when. So maybe we'll put that in the Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2 category at the top. Shira, we have a little bit of lore, I guess, but again, that's all like post with same with Ring City and all that. Midir and Millwood lore definitely still have. Half-Light. Half-Light we need to mention he Half-Light dies. Oh, I don't have it in the Dark Souls 1 time. Whoops. Yeah, I have to remember that for Dark Souls 1 timeline. Half-Light dies in Royal Mausoleum. Secret Shrine. And also Half-Light summoned and returned. Yeah.
is summoned to the future as spear. As a spear. And returns. There we go. We have that. Leto, of course. We never included him in we never included in the Dark Souls 1 thing either, so that's another character I probably should include there. Leto becomes eccentric hammer boy. Leto leaves to wander the earth. All right, and then like I said, I'll clean this stuff up later. We have the stuff on Carla. I don't think we need to focus on Carla's backstory for timeline events, really. Obviously, we'll have the stuff with Alva, but we can add that. We add that for the modern stuff, really. Not really for any of the recent things here. And then Gale. We could put some of the Gale stuff mixed up, but I think I want to do that like after the fact once we have the rest of this stuff all sorted. Okay, so there's still quite a lot. I'm sorry to say, chat. I don't think we're even halfway through this. I think Dark Souls 3 still has a lot of secrets for us to get through. God, this is so dull. Kill me. It'll be wonderful. It'll be wonderful, chat. It'll be wonderful when it's all complete and I never have to work on this again. All right. Until then, though, chat, I'm gonna have this. Yeah, I think we're just gonna. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, but like we'll definitely next time we do one of these streams, we'll definitely try to continue and get as much as we can through the Lothric stuff. And then after that, oh god, I don't know when we're gonna get through all the posts, like, you know, plot and then Dreadkeep stuff. That's gonna be its own thing to worry about. But until then, just we have this. Wait, why is it? Am I crazy? No, chat. It's not showing. There we go. Just remember, we have this beautiful world map for us to view, and this is totally the authentic Dark Souls world map. Until next time, later.